As another semester comes to a close, WUVA enters Madison Hall to speak with President Jim Ryan and reflect on some of the pressing issues from this past school year. Well, first and foremost, thank you for taking the time to speak with us today. We wanted to talk to you first about the Boston Marathon. We're all cheering you on. How do you think it went?
It went better than I thought it would, which is usually not what happens. So I was really pleased to be able to run in honor of Deshaun, Devin, and Lavelle. And I was really surprised, pleasantly so, by how many UVA people I saw along the way. Normally I'll see 2 or 3 groups of UVA people. I probably saw 12 or 15, which really helps, honestly, to hear people shouting Wahoo Wah. And a few people were singing the good old song as I ran past. So, and then there's a water station at mile 25 that is run by the UVA Club of Boston. So it was really helpful to see everyone along the way.
Awesome. That's really nice. Now, stemming from your time as a runner and your time as a college athlete, can you talk a little bit about how NIL is changing college sports here at UVA?
Well, it's changing college sports all across the country. I would say that NIL plus the transfer portal is really creating a lot of swirl in college athletics. And you're seeing it here at UVA with a number of students transferring that probably wouldn't have transferred a couple of years ago if they had to sit out a year. But now you can play immediately. NIL is an opportunity for students to capitalize on their name, image, and likeness. And we've created, or some alums have created, a 501c3 called CAV Futures that is designed to help students both find those opportunities and navigate this new world that we're in. But it is, it's definitely complicating things in college athletics, for sure. And it's not clear where this is all going to end.
Turning to admissions, first off, congratulations on the most recent 10% increase in applications. That's
thanks.
Really
yeah.
exciting. Yeah. But UVA announced, the reprisal of early decision back in 2019, and then fast forward to the class of 2027, which is made up of over 1,000 ED offers. So, in your opinion, how has this process, the early decision process, changed not only admissions here at UVA, but also just the classroom dynamics?
So just to go back to the decision in 2019, I'm not sure everyone understands why we did this. The reason why we reintroduced early decision, which as you know is binding, in addition to early action, where you learn early, but you still have until the end of April to make a final decision. And importantly, you find out what your financial aid award is going to be, was because we had such volume that we could not tell early action applicants whether they were in or not before January 1, which is usually the deadline for applying. So we lost the advantage of early action because students still had to apply to other colleges because they didn't know by January 1 whether they were getting into UVA, and then they could wait until the end of April to decide where they were going. So from our perspective, we lost the advantage of giving someone an early decision. So we thought, okay, well, let's have early decision a part of this, thinking, as is right, it would be a smaller group than early action. So now, of all of the offers that went out, so we made about 9,000 offers. So 1/9 of them are early decision. But everyone who's admitted early decision is coming, so it's binding. I don't know about classroom dynamics, but I do know that the class has continued to be quite diverse. In fact, last year's class was the most diverse in UVA history across a bunch of demographics, including socioeconomic status. So I think one of the concerns, obviously, is with early decision is it can keep students from lower income families from applying because they don't yet know exactly how much financial aid they're going to get. And so they may be reluctant to apply to something that's binding. We are doing our best to make sure that families can have a reasonable understanding of what their financial aid award is likely to be, but also making sure that there are plenty of slots, so 3/4 of the slots in any given class are not decided by early decision. So it's a balance that we're trying to strike, and I've been pleased with it so far, but we'll continue to keep an eye on it.
Right. That's great to hear. I actually applied early decision in 2019.
Oh, you did?
So I was very happy to be
Oh, good.
a part of that application.
No, it's a relief for people who know where they want to go to find out and then just be done with it. And that was the problem with early action. It was that you never gave someone that opportunity to say, well, I'm done. I'm just coming to UVA. So
yes, definitely reassuring. Now, with the impressive new capabilities, I'm sure you've been asked about Chat GPT.
I don't know what you're talking about.
How do you think UVA will sort of adapt to this new technological landscape? Do you think it'll change the honor code at all?
It won't change the honor code at all. And I think students will still have to be honest about what they've used to help prepare something, and they'll have to follow whatever assignment is given. So if a faculty member says you cannot use Chat GPT, that would be a violation of the honor code if they do. I can imagine, back to your first question, that generative artificial intelligence will be used in a number of classrooms across a host of subjects and used in a number of ways. We have a faculty group working on recommendations about how we ought to respond to it, thinking about ways that it can be used productively, thinking about ways to mitigate some of the negative consequences of it. My biggest fear, honestly, is that starting in grade school and middle school and high school, it may mean that students don't spend as much time learning how to write, learning how to research. And that, I think, would be a real shame, because I think that's part of being an educated person. So I hope that doesn't happen. And I think that there are a lot of potential upsides as well, but it is a new world for sure. And so we're, like I said, have a faculty group that's trying to come up with some recommendations about how we should approach it.
Perfect. Thank you. Now, moving into our last few questions. At the recent Board of Visitors meeting, you talked a little bit about increasing gun violence across the nation and also specifically in Charlottesville. So what are some of the ways that the university is working to make students feel more safe on grounds?
Yeah, so this is a topic that's top of mind. I think our number one job is to make sure that students and faculty and staff are safe. So we're doing a lot of things, actually. So we've increased the number of ambassadors and have extended their jurisdiction. We're also making changes to the corner, improving the lighting, having a greater police presence, especially on weekends. We've made some changes to our threat assessment team and added some personnel, and that's really how we track early warnings of potential problems. We've also been looking at some legislative approaches, and this year made a request to close a loophole in state law. Under Virginia state law, guns are prohibited in any building owned by the Commonwealth except higher ed buildings. And there's a historical explanation for why that loophole exists, but we thought this was time to try to close it. And we weren't successful, but we'll try again next year. We've also pulled together a local task force to come up with concrete recommendations in a very short period of time about what we as a community, meaning UVA, Charlottesville, and Albemarle, can do to reduce gun violence. Because this is not something that the university can do on its own. It's something that we have to do in partnership with Charlottesville and Albemarle County. And that group has begun to meet. And they're really going to look at other localities that have faced similar challenges and what they've done that has been successful. And then the last thing we're doing is creating a research lab that will look at this not just from a local perspective, but from a national perspective. And part of this is in response to the shootings on grounds on November 13th. And I think we have an obligation as a university to try to do something to reduce gun violence, not just here in Charlottesville, not just on our grounds, but statewide and nationwide as well.
And with these new initiatives, with these new partnerships, do you feel as though you're getting the support that you need?
Yes, absolutely. There are a lot of people who are eager to help, both within UVA and within the broader community. I think that everyone recognizes that this is a real issue, and everyone recognizes that as difficult as it is, and it is a difficult issue to address, that doesn't mean that we shouldn't try.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for all your efforts with that too.
Yeah.
And then finally, as another school year comes to a close, can you talk a little bit about what the faculty members, the students, and the Charlottesville community mean to you?
Oh, they mean the world to me. My history with UVA goes back quite a while. I came here in 1989 as a law student. My wife and I met as first-year law students. In fact, we celebrated our first date, which was on Earth Day 33 years ago.
Congratulations.
Which is a long time. And then I was on the faculty here at the law school for 15 years. Our kids, we have 4 kids, they were essentially raised here. We spent 5 years in Massachusetts in between my being on the law school and coming back to be president. But they all think of Charlottesville as home. They are intense and loyal UVA sports fans. And this place feels like home to me. But beyond that, as president, one of the privileges I have is every day I get to see the work of amazing people that's going on around here. And I view my number one job as doing whatever I can to create the circumstances under which people will be able to do their best work. But from being a student here, the students, the faculty, and staff are unlike any other community, I think, that exists in higher education. It is a phenomenal place, incredibly talented people, but also kind-hearted people. And it's a privilege to be a part of this community.
I'm Elisa Maiolo, WUVA.